Brandon sleepily yawned and opened his eyes. It was mid-afternoon, and the sun beat down on him. He sat up and stretched. A small fire was still burning. A large rock with a hollowed-out center sat near the edge of it. Something liquid was boiling in it. To the side of the fire was a generous pile of pine cones. Scotty and Troy were still asleep. Daniel was nowhere in sight. Brandon shook Scotty's ankle. Scotty turned over and opened one eye. "What?" "Wake up. It's the middle of the day." Scotty rubbed his eyes and sniffed the air. "I'm starved. What's cooking?" Brandon shrugged. "I don't know. Daniel must have left it. Looks like water with chopped up pine needles in it." "It's tea." Daniel stepped out from behind a tree. The front of his t-shirt was filled with round green berries. He dumped the berries on a grassy spot. "It's made from pine needles. Has more vitamin C than orange juice." Using his handkerchief, he tipped the rock and let some of the liquid run into a piece of bark he had carved out with his knife. He held it out to Scotty. "Try some." Scotty took the bark. "I'm game." He sipped the hot liquid. "Not bad." Brandon picked up one of the pine cones and tossed it into the air. "What are we going to do with these? Have a war later?" "Those are part of your breakfast." Daniel held one of the cones over the fire. When it was warm, he easily popped off some of the scales. "See these little winged-looking seeds?" He put them in his mouth. "They're good. These don't taste all that great." Daniel pointed to his little cache of berries. "But they'll help fill the empty place in your stomach." Scotty stripped off a few of the berries and tossed them into his mouth. "Danny boy, you are amazing." A small rock flew through the air and hit Scotty in the chest. Troy sat up and smiled. "You dummies gonna keep all the grub to yourselves, or what?" Scotty threw the rock back. "I think I liked you better when you were unconscious." Daniel poured some of the tea for Troy. Troy reached for it, and some of the leaves and pine needles fell out of his shirt. He looked at Daniel. "Would it be okay with you if I unstuffed myself? I feel like a scarecrow. This junk is kinda uncomfortable." Daniel nodded. "I don't think you need it anymore, but you still ought to take it easy today." "Does that mean you think we should wait another day before we try finding our way out of here?" Brandon asked. Daniel nodded again. "Troy wouldn't get too far before we'd have to stop and make another camp. And besides," he looked up at the sky, "it's a little late in the day to start." Scotty popped some scales off his pine cone. "Why don't we just stay where we are? Someone's bound to find us sooner or later. Until they do, Troy can rest up." "They don't know where we are." Daniel poured more tea for Troy. "The way I figure it, the driver took a wrong turn about an hour out of town. After that, he just kept going. We should have been at Camp Eagle Nest 2 hours after we left yesterday, but we were still driving after about 4 hours." "You mean we're not even close to the camp?" Scotty's voice rose slightly. Daniel shook his head. "We could be anywhere. I think the driver knew we were lost, and he kept trying different roads, hoping to get back on course." "What are we going to do?" Troy asked. "We have 3 choices. One is to sit here, build a signal fire, and wait. We can hope someone sees it and comes to get us. The second is to walk up this side of the river to the place where the bridge washed out and see if the road leads anywhere." "What's the third thing?" Brandon asked. "The third thing is the most dangerous, but if it works, it'll get us home the fastest. We go downstream and find the slowest moving part of the river and try to get to the other side. Follow the river back upstream to the bridge, and then follow the road home." "Not me."